Have you ever felt like certain things happen at just the right moment, almost as if the universe is trying to tell you something? Small details, random phrases, strange coincidences. But what if I told you that none of it is random? Life is full of divine signs, yet most people pass them by without noticing. The difference between those who find purpose and those who feel lost comes down to one thing: paying attention. The truth is, the greatest lessons don't come through the obvious. God rarely shouts, he whispers. The answers you've been searching for might already be around you, but distractions keep you from seeing them. What if you learned to recognize these signs? It could change everything. There's an invisible pattern shaping your life, guiding your steps, and leading you to the right destination, if you can interpret the messages being sent your way. That's why in this video, I'm going to show you how to awaken this awareness and understand what God is trying to reveal to you. But before we dive in, go ahead and like this video and subscribe to the channel, because here we talk about biblical wisdom and Christian reflections that will help you grow. And to prove you're paying attention, comment below, "Nothing is a coincidence, everything is providence." Now get ready, because after this video you'll never see life the same way again. The biggest changes in life don't happen in the noise, but in the silence. It's in those moments when everything seems still that divine providence is quietly at work. When someone sits alone, free from distractions, they start noticing things they used to overlook. A persistent thought, a memory resurfacing, a feeling pointing them in a certain direction. It's in this quiet space that God speaks. As Psalm 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." But how often do we quiet ourselves enough to hear? Spiritual transformation happens when we learn to pay attention. That moment of reflection before bed, the time spent sipping coffee while staring into the distance, the choice to take a walk without headphones, small pauses that, when valued, bring discernment. Have you noticed that the biggest answers don't come in the middle of the rush, but when the mind slows down? Silence isn't the absence of movement. It's an invitation to recognize the divine signs that have been there all along. Anyone who's been through hard times knows the weight of silence. When we're suffering, the temptation is to fill every space with noise, distraction, or escape. But what if silence is actually God's intervention, shaping something greater? Having the patience to listen, without panic, can reveal unexpected directions. In the end, silence isn't emptiness, it's preparation. Because when we stop to listen, we begin to realize that nothing is a coincidence. How many times has something seemingly random happened, only for you to look back later and realize it was part of a bigger plan? An unexpected phone call, a delay that prevents an accident, a chance meeting that changes everything. The world calls it coincidence, but those with discernment know they're divine signs. As Romans 8:28 reminds us, all things work together for the good of those who love God. Nothing is random. There is providence working silently behind the scenes. The problem is, we're so distracted that we let these signs pass us by. Have you noticed how some answers come in the most subtle ways? A Bible verse appearing at just the right time, a conversation that brings clarity, an obstacle that actually protects you from something worse. Destiny isn't accidental. It's shaped by every choice and every divine intervention. But to notice it, you need awareness. The smallest details can carry the biggest directions. Reflecting on this changes the way we handle challenges. Instead of complaining about detours, we can ask, what is this trying to show me? Pain often pushes us toward paths we would never have chosen on our own, yet they lead us exactly where we need to be. Instead of resisting, we can find purpose in every piece of the puzzle, because in the end, everything works together for the growth of those who have faith. Major life changes don't happen overnight. They're the result of small decisions repeated over time. choosing 5 minutes of prayer instead of another video on your phone, reading a chapter of the Bible instead of getting lost in social media, replacing a complaint with a grateful thought. Each of these choices may seem insignificant in the moment, but together they build an unshakable foundation of spiritual growth. As Zechariah 4:10 says, "Who despises the day of small beginnings?" Many people wait for a big sign, a sudden transformation, without realizing that God works in the details. Think of a muscle. It doesn't grow instantly, but through consistent effort. The same is true for faith. Small habits create a strong foundation for life's challenges. And the best part, anyone can do it. Setting aside a quiet moment each day for reflection, writing down spiritual insights, practicing discernment instead of reacting impulsively, these simple actions shape our path. The key is consistency. The choices you make today determine who you'll become tomorrow. A simple shift, starting your day with gratitude instead of complaints, can transform your mindset. What once seemed like suffering can be seen as an opportunity. What seemed like a coincidence can be recognized as divine providence. And little by little, these choices lead us to the purpose that was written for us all along. Suffering never comes with a warning, and it's rarely welcomed. But have you ever noticed how, after the hardest seasons of life, something inside you changes? Often, suffering is God's megaphone, awakening those who were spiritually asleep. It pushes us out of our comfort zone, forces us to reflect, and in the process, reveals a greater purpose. As 2 Corinthians 4:17 reminds us, "For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all." Nothing happens by chance. Who hasn't experienced a moment when everything seemed to fall apart? A loss, a disappointment, an abrupt ending to a chapter in life. In the heat of the moment, it's hard to see the purpose, but later we understand it was divine intervention, repositioning us. Growth happens in pain because it forces us to look inward. Maybe losing that job was an opportunity to find a greater calling. Maybe that broken relationship was actually a blessing in disguise. With spiritual discernment, we begin to see God's signs. The key is how we respond to suffering. We can sink into self-pity, or we can use it as a stepping stone for spiritual transformation. The right question isn't, "Why is this happening to me?" but rather, "What can I learn from this?" Faith teaches us that everything has a purpose, even if we can't see it right away. Because God doesn't shout, He whispers, and often it's in the silence of pain that we can finally hear His voice. God rarely speaks through thunderous signs. Most of the time He reveals Himself in the small details, in the quiet whispers of daily life that only those who are paying attention can hear. Just like in 1 Kings 19:11-12, when Elijah expected to find God in the powerful wind, the earthquake, and the fire, but instead God came in a gentle whisper. How often do we wait for something grand while the divine signs are already all around us? The real question isn't whether God is speaking, but whether we are listening. The problem is the world today is loud. Social media, commitments, notifications, it's so much noise that the signs get drowned out. Have you ever been searching for an answer and then, out of nowhere, you hear something that feels like it was said just for you? A verse that appears at the perfect moment, an unexpected piece of advice, a coincidence that changes everything. God speaks through these subtle moments, but to notice them, we have to slow down, embrace silence, and cultivate discernment. Learning to hear these whispers is an act of faith. A persistent feeling nudging you in a direction, an inner restlessness pointing the way, an unexpected encounter that turns into a life-changing moment. None of it is random. Small daily messages shape our path and prepare us for the purpose ahead. The challenge is to trust, even when the road isn't clear, because that deep longing for something more may just be the first sign. There's a void that success, money, or worldly recognition can never truly fill. Have you ever felt that? Everything seems to be in place, yet deep down something tells you there's more. That longing isn't a mistake, it's a sign. As Ecclesiastes 3:11 says, God has placed eternity in the human heart. This feeling isn't meant to frustrate you, but to guide you. It's your soul reminding you that a greater purpose is waiting for you. The problem is that many try to silence this restlessness with distractions, new goals, new achievements, new pleasures. But none of these bring lasting fulfillment because the answer isn't outside, it's within. When the soul thirsts, temporary things won't satisfy it. True fulfillment comes from aligning with God's will. That dissatisfaction you feel might actually be an invitation to seek something deeper, to connect with divine providence. When we embrace this calling, everything starts to make sense. Challenges stop being obstacles and become stepping stones for growth. Suffering gains meaning, divine signs become clearer, and the once uncertain path begins to unfold. But to experience this, you must pay attention. Living intentionally and seeing every detail as part of a bigger plan is what leads to true transformation. Living on autopilot is one of the greatest traps of modern life. Days pass without meaning, choices are made on impulse, and dreams are postponed for a someday that never comes. But when we start seeing purpose in every detail, everything changes. As Proverbs 3:5-6 says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding." Nothing happens by chance. Every encounter, every challenge, every moment of silence carries a message. The question is, are you paying attention? Recognizing divine providence requires more than just faith. It requires presence. Think about the most defining moments of your life. They likely happened when you were fully present. An eye-opening conversation, a mistake that turned into a lesson, an unexpected detour that led you to the right place. God guides us in subtle ways, but only those who live with discernment can recognize his signs and align themselves with the destiny he has already written. Living intentionally means understanding that everything has meaning. It's about turning suffering into growth, seeing coincidences as divine interventions, and always seeking a greater purpose. Those who learn to do this don't just survive, they truly live. Every step becomes part of a guided journey, where silence reveals answers and small choices build great transformations. And once we understand this, we begin to realize that nothing, absolutely nothing, happens by chance. Now tell me, how many times have you ignored signs, only to realize later how important they were? Small warnings, gut feelings, unexpected encounters. All of these could be God trying to show you the way. But if you keep living on autopilot, distracted, these signs will go unnoticed. So the real question is, will you keep ignoring them, or will you start paying attention? Change begins when you decide to see life through a different lens. If every detail has a purpose, then every day is an opportunity for growth. Every challenge is preparation, and every silence may be carrying an answer. But for that to happen, you must be present, open, and willing to follow the signs. So why not start now? What in this video resonated with you the most? Leave a comment below. I'd love to hear how God has been speaking to you. And if you want to keep growing spiritually, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. That way, you won't miss any content that could transform your perspective. And don't stop here. There's a special video that perfectly complements everything we've talked about today. Click on it now and discover your next step in strengthening your faith and understanding God's plans for your life.